Good evening. The Ministry of Health and Wellness is reporting that the island recorded 194 new cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. The new cases consist of 78 males and 114 females, ranging in age from 2 days to 88 years. Now, this takes the island's total of cases to 15,435. The cases were recorded in St. James with 36 cases. Kingston and St. Andrew recorded 32 cases, Manchester 28, St. Elizabeth 23, St. Catherine 21, Clarendon recorded 14 cases, St. Anne 12 cases, St. Mary recorded 11 cases, Westmoreland 7, Hanover recorded 6 cases, while St. Thomas and Trelawney recorded 2 cases each. Meanwhile, the ministry also confirmed 2 new COVID-19 related deaths, taking the country's death toll now to 344. The deceased are a 65-year-old male from St. Catherine and a 66-year-old male from St. Anne. Another death was reported today as coincidental, while one death was reported as under investigation. The country also recorded 19 recoveries, taking the total of recovered persons now to 11,961. Still making news tonight, the government and leading private sector interests in the country have announced a joint partnership aimed at vaccinating as much as 70% of Jamaicans against COVID-19 this year. Now, this public-private partnership sees the private sector groups assisting the Ministry of Health and Wellness, MOHW, in sourcing, storage, and transportation of approved vaccines, administering training, marketing, and public relations, as well as funding the vaccination of private sector workers. The private sector has also recommended that it be allowed to import vaccines with the approval of the ministry. President and CEO of the Sagicor Group Jamaica and a former president of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Mr. Christopher Zaka said, quote, "To facilitate this vaccination of the workforce, we recommend that the private sector be allowed to purchase and import its own supply of vaccinations for deployment through the private healthcare network, as is currently done with the annual flu vaccine, under the supervision and guidance of the MOHW, in the same manner as non-over-the-counter drugs are now handled," end quote. Speaking at a press conference yesterday, Mr. Zaka said the private sector would work with the government to develop the protocols to ensure the vaccines are accessible to Jamaicans who cannot afford them and to restore the productive capacity of the economy. Meanwhile, Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Christopher Tufton said, quote, "Vaccination represents the last frontier in our COVID-19 combat, and it is important to get it right." In other news tonight, the Sangster International Airport, SIA, Jamaica's leading gateway to the world, operated by MBG Airports Limited, has partnered with Bay West Wellness Clinic to operate a COVID-19 testing facility for users of the airport. Now, this partnership comes on the heels of the announcement for passengers traveling to the United States to provide a negative COVID-19 test result taken not more than 72 hours before their flight, or proof of recovery from the virus before boarding their flights. MBJ Airport's CEO Shane Monroe said, quote, "We recognized the challenge this change in travel requirements may present to passengers and have moved quickly to establish a partnership with Bay West Wellness Clinic to offer a COVID-19 testing facility at the airport for the convenience of our passengers," end quote. Bay West Wellness Clinic is to administer both polymerase chain reaction PCR and antigen tests to users requesting either test at the airport. Now, this will be done in compliance with all applicable standards stipulated by the Ministry of Health and Wellness, MOHW, and the various countries to which users of the airports intend to travel. Results will be communicated to passengers via QR code, text messaging, email, and paper certification. Test results will be returned to customers 15 minutes for antigen testing and 48 hours for PCR tests at the rates of $50 and $150 respectively. Still making the news tonight, the Noel Holmes Hospital's ability to care for patients with the coronavirus COVID-19 has been boosted with the donation of 2 pieces of equipment, a vital signs monitor and a suction machine valued at $350,000 thanks to the Hanover Foundation Charities and Choco Foundation. Now, a vital signs monitor is used to provide data on a patient's body temperature, pulse rate, respiration, oxygen saturation, and blood pressure, among other things, while a suction machine is a device used to maintain an airway by removing secretions from the mouth, throat, or lungs. Carlton McLennan, CEO of the hospital, in expressing appreciation, noted that at the onset of the virus last March, Board Chairman Elaine Harvey reached out to a number of private sector companies for assistance. However, he disclosed that while a number of promises were received, not all had materialized. The parish of Hanover has approximately 72,000 residents, and the hospital currently sees 23,000 persons per annum. John Biles, Managing Director of Chukka Adventures, says his company will be doing its best to assist the initiative. Shiona Machette, manager of the Choco Foundation, noted that while her charity has been assisting those in the community who are in need through care packages and scholarships, efforts are being made to recognize healthcare providers. Meanwhile, Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Christopher Tufton yesterday signed off on a check for $84,158 to purchase an ambulance. Now, this was donated by the government of Japan to the Mandeville Regional Hospital, MRH, in Manchester to boost the delivery of quality health care and emergency response services amid the current coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. The grant funding falls under the Grant Assistance for Grassroots and Human Security Program. Now, in thanking the Japanese government, Dr. Tufton issued an appeal to the residents of Manchester to take the COVID-19 protocols seriously, as the MRH is now experiencing its Amber Alert 75% capacity status. Underscoring the significance of the partnership between Jamaica and Japan, Dr. Tufton also expressed thanks to the staff at the hospital, whom he described as a critical part of the response. Meanwhile, Japanese ambassador to Jamaica, His Excellency Masaya Fujiwara, underscored the country's commitment to further enhancing its cooperation with international partners such as Jamaica towards achieving universal health care in the fight against the COVID-19 virus. On her part, Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Minister, Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, described the donation as another positive development in the long-standing and dynamic partnership between both countries. Still making Mello TV news, 18-year-old Dante Brooks, the son of Jamaican international dancehall entertainer Mavado, was convicted of murder when he appeared in the Home Circuit Court in downtown Kingston today. Brooks was also found guilty of illegal possession of firearm and arson, while his co-accused, Andre Hines, was also found guilty of similar charges. Hines and Brooks were both arrested and charged in 2018 for the June 5 murder of Lorenzo Thomas in St. Andrew. The victim's home was also set on fire by his attackers. Reports are that 5 men, including the 2 accused, went to Thomas's home and fatally shot him. They also attempted to sever his head, then poured gasoline upon his body and inside the house before setting him on fire. Both accused were remanded into custody and are scheduled to be sentenced on March 10. Continuing with the news tonight, the police in St. Anne have launched a probe into the circumstances that led to the death of a 10-year-old child after he allegedly consumed a beverage in Discovery Bay on the weekend. The police have confirmed that another child was hospitalized after he too allegedly consumed a similar beverage. Reports are that the now deceased child, Richard Emmanuel, of a Discovery Bay address, was part of a church group that purchased the beverages from a local businesswoman who sells a variety of juices. Now, after consuming the beverages, persons in the group reportedly started to complain of feeling ill. They started to experience random vomiting and diarrhea. The child fell ill on Monday and died while being rushed to the hospital by his parents. The other child also fell ill and he is currently being treated in the hospital. And those are some of the stories making news tonight. We will return with more stories making news as Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the construction of the Red Stripe Experience Museum at the Rick's Cafe in Negril will add to the country's cultural assets and boost the country's tourism products. And the Prime Minister also stated that the country is now open for investor business, even amidst the global COVID-19 pandemic. But first, we'll now take a break and then it's over to Christopher Scott with the sports.